In this video, we will be counting down the top 5 weirdest titles for self-development or money-related books. So we'll start with number 5, the $10 trillion prize. Now, what a title this is, that's quite a large number. This book actually is not about making $1 trillion or 10 trillion. It's about captivating the newly affluent in China and India. It's kind of a book about the development of economics in these areas. Kind of like a bit of a dense book. It's not that thick though. I haven't read it, but I have it. Number 4, 2 billion under 20. You can see a theme here with the numbers. What does this mean? Does this mean 2 billion people under 20 years of age? That's exactly what it means. It doesn't mean $2 billion. It actually means that there's over 2 billion people, a large percentage of the world population, who are under 20 years of age. And it pretty much is a book towards millennials, which I am a part of. This rising generation of people who will go on to take the world by storm, who have, grown up with technology, who know how to text and all that stuff. And it's really a book interviewing some of the most successful millennials, the most successful people. It's quite a great book, and I think it's like the younger person's counterpart to the book Getting There by Jillian Zoe Siegel, where she interviews some of the most successful people on the planet, and billionaires, business people, producers, composers, and so forth. Arguably, it's a little bit different though, because a lot of the people interviewed in this book are not really successful yet. They're along their journey. So there's, for instance, a guy from Africa who hasn't really made any real money yet, but he worked his tail off just to get access to a computer because he knew the potential of computers, and he knew that it was his ticket to get out of the life and situation his family was in. And just to get access to a computer and the internet was like what he wanted. So it's an incredible book on a lot of different stories. Okay, number 3. I don't have it with me, but it is called The First Billion is the Hardest. Now this time, the title actually has to do with money. And yes, it's exactly how it seems. It is about how the first $1 billion you make is the hardest. Now I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs say this about the first $1 million. The first $1 million you make is generally the hardest. Then from there you understand how things work. You usually tend to lose your first million because you don't know how to manage and keep that money. But then from there you start ratcheting up, and you know how things work, so you can just duplicate that. That's what a lot of entrepreneurs say. But this guy, he goes to the next level and says the first $1 billion is the hardest. It's a book by T. Boone Pickens, and he's a energy and oil guy. He makes a lot of good points and gives a lot of good advice on the macroeconomic side. And I think there's a lot of stuff that I think I agree with. He brings out the point that oil and water are limited resources, and like it or not, we have a limited supply of them on Earth, and that supply is getting less and less accessible as the years progress, which means that if you keep or invest in water, apparently you'll make more money because it's going to go up in price over the years. So there's some interesting stuff like that in the book, and it's mainly more of a book to read for entertainment and a little bit of business advice. He pretty much talks a lot about his own life and his own journey. So it's a bit of a mini biography, and it's a very incredible story about how he had to work really hard, and it was tough for him to find a job. And there's a lot of good life advice in there about how he told his friends just to stay away from alcohol and women until they succeeded in their business. And apparently that really stuck with a lot of his friends and got them somewhere. And then there's like a bunch of other great stuff in the book. There's this one thing towards the end of the book where he gives examples of his own company and his own business and how he really values exercise and energy. And he literally spent like millions of his own money um, to build gyms for his employees. And he really emphasizes health and fitness. And he saw a noticeable gain in profit and results and productivity after he installed the gym and stuff like that. So that's something that a lot of businesses don't emphasize. So it's incredible. It's such a new angle, and I emphasize it a lot, but not every business person emphasizes that at all, really. So I think it's really incredible. I mean, I'm a huge Warren Buffett fan, for instance. He's made billions of dollars. He knows what he's doing in business. But, I have to be honest. He eats whatever he wants. He literally eats fast food every day, ice cream sundaes, and that sort of stuff. And he does what he wants. But I'm not gonna lie, it's not the most healthy for him. And I do believe that the fuel you put into your body is what you will get out of it. And I think he could possibly do 2 times better with more health and all that stuff. Okay, moving on from there. Number two in the countdown is a book called Your First 100 Million by Dan Pena. Now, again, it's a book that has quite the title, and this one, yes, it does have to do with money. So his book is a money book, and again, it talks about your first $100 million. Dan Pena is a man who is self-proclaimed to have helped many, many businessmen make much more money. And apparently he has records to prove it. And he's called the $500 billion man. And apparently he's called the $50 billion man because he's helped in total, he has increased the profits of many different companies up to $50 million. And apparently he's saying that that 50 billion is only the public information from the entrepreneurs he's helped who is willing to release that information. And apparently he's helped even more, but those people want to remain private. The number one book that I want to talk about, the number one book with the number one, and number one, we have The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins. And this book, the name is not that weird. It's kind of just like, a gene that is selfish. If you don't know what a gene is, it's like a part of your DNA, your genetics, the strands of programming that pretty much code you to be you, all your human characteristics. And this apparently is a bestseller, and it's eerily quoted a lot and recommended a lot by business people, despite it being a biology book. And I would like to point to Charlie Munger. He is Warren Buffett's business partner, and Charlie Munger is a guy who really appreciates and respects and uses many different models and fields because he knows that these are important to his success. And I think that's very important, and I think the lesson that you should learn. He calls it utilizing different mental models to understand the world. So what he basically does is he taught himself physics, psychology, biology, evolution, all these things. And he says he only learned enough to understand the fundamentals, because he says the fundamentals make up 80 to 90% of your understanding of these different fields. Now, he's a business guy, so he then applies these to his business and his investing. And it makes a lot of sense. Why? Because who runs businesses? Who are the customers in businesses? They're all human beings. And human beings have a lot of programming and biases and emotional reactions that may not be logical, and psychological biases that don't really make sense, that if you can understand, can help you in your business decisions so you don't screw up, as well as helping customers out and getting them to purchase sales, all sorts of stuff. So there's that last book, Selfish Gene. And as an honorable mention, if you want to learn more about psychology, which will help you in business, selling, uh, and relationships, and pretty much navigating people, there's this great book called um, Influence, and it's by a psychologist called Robert Cialdini. It's a great book. It's also a bestseller, and I suggest you check it out. I'll leave links in the description to all these books, and I will see you in my next video. Peace.